Call to order the planning board meeting for Monday, May 6, 2024 at 6 o'clock. Technically, we're early. 6 o'clock somewhere. Anyway, so first item we have on our agenda is anything open forum not on the current agenda. Anybody on the board have any updates?
No.
No, I can hear the public, anything not on the agenda. Okay. Interim planning director, anything not on the agenda.
Good evening. I don't have anything.
Next thing we have is welcome interim planning director. So.
Good evening. It's good to be back, and there's a lot of interesting things going on in town, and looking forward to digging in. I spent the first 2 weeks just mostly reading what was in the files and reports and.
Yeah. Hopefully we left you alone a little bit. That was kind of the plan. Settle in a little.
So I'm interested in helping you out to the extent that I can, and let me know if there's anything you need to for.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Paul, you actually came to the last meeting. I know I came in here and I introduced myself and sat down there. I realized later at the end, I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't actually formally welcome you, so thank you. Appreciate it. We're very happy to have you here.
Absolutely. All right, administrative items, minutes of April 22nd, 2024. Motion to accept the minutes as written.
So moved.
Okay, we have a second. I'll second. Motion and a second. Any discussion? Any changes to the minutes? All right. Call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Session. Okay, it's done. Let's see. Next item we have is establish inclusionary zoning working group. Let's do that on this. I didn't know we were doing this right now at this point. But
The select board was supposed to do it and then they kind of pushed it.
they punted it to us,
Yeah.
all because we have an interim director.
Is there some timing that's coming up for this? I believe we have a grant for funding a consultant.
Yeah,
I think we have until 2025.
yeah,
It's
and
not super urgent.
as I recall, they've pretty much written us a draft of what it would be, or what they would suggest we would do. We had not delved into it because we still haven't gotten far enough along with our recodification of the bylaw. Had one delay after the other on that, so this is something we had thoughts of moving it along simultaneously to the zoning bylaw recodification, because we did have these funds and we were getting rewrite information directly from the utilization of those funds. So I don't necessarily know why it would be a particular working group. I would like to think that would potentially just be something we could handle to forward as a group versus a separate working group. But they punted that one back to us. I think we have plenty of time on it. Let's push it off to a future agenda, and I'll try to get together a little bit. We'll coordinate maybe with Chris to see when the timing of that should happen, and or if that can get kicked around to one of the other groups or just us, if it was our board. To maybe bring out, I don't think we would bring that before town meeting until we were bringing recodifications. We do recodification first and then substitute that in.
I think, aren't we bringing recodification into the October town meeting?
That would be as soon as.
Right. So then do we want to just maybe have that done and work on that, or something, just like make a commitment to work on it?
We want the inclusion.
Yeah.
We wouldn't want to do that before the recodification. We wouldn't want to change it and then recodify.
Okay, got it. So
We
that,
want to recodify first and
got it.
then do that. It's gonna play out based on how the recodification goes.
Okay.
If we feel we're gonna have that ready for the October town meeting, that looks like we're gonna have to have anyway. Uh, Then maybe we can push forward that way. We're only having our second meeting of the recodification group Wednesday night. So we'll get a better feel for what's moving along there. And we haven't even established, well, we haven't officially established our chairman and vice chair and everything
Okay,
yet, so. Negotiations ongoing.
Given those circumstances, I think that it would be overly optimistic to think that, October special town meeting, we would have an entire recodified bylaw, been able to hold public hearings, vet that with the public. This is looking more like this project will go to the spring town meeting next year. I have a meeting scheduled with Mark Rassicott and the other planners that are involved in this tomorrow, so
Okay.
I'll be able to give you, an update of the next meeting.
Okay, maybe if we let them know that that's potentially what our time. If the zoning recodification does move along more quickly, and we really make some headway on that, we can adjust.
Do we have to have that recodification in place to tackle the MBTA amendments?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that we have to deal with.
Thank you.
Well, we quote unquote have to deal with it no matter what. Other towns have been voting it down when they get to town meeting, so it doesn't mean they're really dealing with it. Okay. Anything else on the inclusionary zoning workshop? Again, everybody okay, just pushing that off now? Okay. Discuss MBTA and community zoning amendment project schedule. Okay, so this, we have a set schedule, we have to get back to the state on this. Still, the deadline hasn't been pushed out anymore, right?
No,
Okay,
so this is a project that, most of the communities within the 495 area are currently, struggling with. The state, as many people are aware, made amendments to chapter 48, section 3 in 2021. They've, instructed communities to, adopt, by right multifamily zoning in every city and town. That they gave each community a target number of, housing units that the zoning has to allow for, and the zoning has to be allowed as a matter of right, so it can't be by special permit. This has, been reached with mixed reaction from the communities, within the 495 area that are subject to this. It's not only communities that are, served by the MBTA directly, but it also includes adjacent communities, and that's where, Duxbury falls. As the chairman noted, we're starting to see, the second wave of, towns making an effort to meet their deadline for adoption, which here in Duxbury is at the end of this year. Having reviewed the file for the project, Christopher Ryan has, done a good job of getting, the ball well down the field in that, he applied for and received grant funding. They hired, Jennifer Goulston a planning consultant to, help with the first phase of the project, where they, analyzed various areas of town, given certain considerations to determine which areas of the town would be, best suited to, accommodate, these zoning changes. Along with the requirements from the state, there's a total number of units, which is 750 here in Duxbury, that the community has to provide zoning for. And it's important for everyone to understand that doesn't mean that there's gonna be 750 apartments built this year or next year or in 3 or 5 years. It just says that the zoning, would allow for it as a matter of right. And there has to be a total of, 50 acres, that, is part of these districts. And, they can't be, 40 scattered sites, there has to be at least, I think, a 25-acre minimum per area, so that, you can have more than one area, and it's not all concentrated in one section of the community. But there has to be a minimum of a contiguous 25-acre tract of land where this zone, where it would be targeted for zoning. So the work that's been done so far has been good. The difficult kind of decision-making process of where they thought would be the best locations has been kind of worked out, but, you know, it's still all up for discussion. The selectmen, are gonna meet with the planning board in a little while to talk about the creation of a working group comprised of a broad, representation of the community to come together and try to work on, this difficult but important task. And the reason why it's important, you know, yes, it has to do with housing and providing housing for people from a broad range of incomes and a broad range of housing types. At different times in our lives, we all live in different types of housing, and circumstances in people's lives change over time, and not everyone, you know, needs or wants to live in their own single-family home on an acre lot. And so the town needs to work towards providing those housing opportunities for people with a broad range of incomes of different types of housing. But it's also important because we've seen the state take action against communities that have failed to adopt this zoning. And Milton is a recent example. They did not approve the zoning at town meeting. And the state pretty quickly told them that some of the grant funding that they had already been awarded would not come to the community. There's a list of different grant programs that the state said if you don't adopt MBTA community zoning on time that meets their requirements, then you know, you can forget about applying for these certain types of grants. It seems to be kind of a little bit of a moving target right now where we're waiting to see, you know, what's been done. Housing authority funding was withheld a few years ago from a community. Milton, as I understand it, has lost a grant. And we have concerns that in the future, if the town does not proactively move ahead and adopt this zoning, that the town could lose various types of grant funding, as well as other things that we're not sure what the state's gonna do, depending on how this all shakes out. And we understand last week, Marshfield town meeting voted not to approve their zoning. And we're waiting to see what action the state's gonna take. We anticipate there's gonna be a lawsuit, and there could be grant funding that's held up. And that's something that we're gonna keep an eye on for.
Yeah, from the things, so the public would know on this, we have been working on this for quite a while. They've changed the dates on it a few times, they pushed it out, there's a lot of towns that are pushing back. Duxbury is considered an adjacent town because Kingston has the train station. And the idea is that you create these denser living areas, which we more or less have. One of the areas that we're looking at, the primary area we're looking at designating in town for this potential zoning overlay is Island Creek, where we already have the apartments and condos and everything in there. It would allow for that to be even denser. However, it's already built. It's unlikely we're gonna tear it all down to try to make it denser. And so the big thing is density. It overrides all of our rules as far as density. People think 40B is difficult. This will be much denser than that. But you can restrict where it will be based on different lots. And they can be lots that are already developed. So you can still designate an area like Island Creek, which is already developed, as the overlay district for this. And it qualifies. So we do have, I think we've identified 3 really good sites here in town that it could be. The issue where a lot of the towns, and I think Duxbury as a town is fighting back somewhat on this. Yes, we're adjacent. Yes, we get funding from the state, and grants and different things all the time. But to shove this down our throat, the idea is that we would build this nearby to where people can walk to the public transportation. You're not walking to the Kingston train station anywhere in Duxbury. And how are you gonna get there? It's none of that really, and this is what a lot of the towns are having a problem with. None of it really jives. Yes, they wanna do it, we wanna force anti-snobism, which is 1 acre, 1 house per acre, et cetera, et cetera. They wanna force in more density so you can get more apartment buildings and everything else. And again, some of the arguments that go back is, well, we don't have that here. There are apartments going up all around us in our surrounding towns. We're not a huge town. We're not a town size of a city like Quincy or someplace that big. We're a small town surrounded by other towns that do have apartments. So there are arguments to be made. However, you know, there's arguments have to be made about multiple towns with the state. So we'll see what it'll end up in the end. But I think we have 3 really good choices. I think we meet all their criteria for putting it through without putting ourselves too at risk of anything crazy happen. So, again, so it looks like the select board is putting together that working group, right? They didn't pump that one back to us. That might have been, that's not okay, so that's good. So hopefully we'll get some good people that want to get on board with that as well. Yes.
How does the community comment?
Once we get a little bit further along, the working group, and we'll come up with the zoning bylaw amendment, and then we will have public hearings at that point. And then we also get to comment when we go to town meeting to vote on it.
So there's no input at this point.
Or there can be through you, to probably be looking for volunteers to be on the working group as well, so.
Right, but is that it? You can only comment if they're on the.
Now, if anybody can attend the working group, they're public meetings, can attend the working group meetings and comment on them. They'll just have meeting minutes, they won't be recorded or anything, you can watch it, but, those meetings will be ongoing and they're public meetings, so anyone can attend. Yes?
Has there ever been a similar situation from the state that changed the laws of the town, the zoning?
40B
for
is the only other thing that comes to mind that really does anything with it, the 40B zoning, which is how we get all the condos in town.
Yeah,
Our bylaw doesn't allow that to be done, but 40B at the state level allows for that override of our bylaws.
and is there any pushback from the town on this, you know, I mean, even if you wanted the housing, the way it's being done, that,
Right.
the threat and the,
Well, the
force?
way it appears so far that the state is handling that is, if you don't do what we want, we take away funding.
Right,
Which
yeah.
is just fine.
Not-
Oh, yeah. So.
But-
There's
So,
many communities.
Towns are fighting back against it, but
There's many towns that.
they're getting their hands slapped and they're losing funding, and until enough towns get together and really go after the state, I don't think anything. It's just really starting to happen now.
Mr. Chairman, to
Yeah.
to follow up on question earlier about, public input. In addition to a public hearing or public hearings, which are required under state law for zoning changes, I'm recommending that this working group that's gonna be formed tonight, hold at least a couple of public outreach and education sessions. And I've drafted a schedule just for discussion purposes, mapping out, starting tonight when the selectmen appoint this group, to a potential special town meeting date in mid-October. And so between now and then, in addition to this working group, a big part of what they're gonna be doing is outreach and education sessions, explaining the law, and then taking feedback from residents and making adjustments to the zoning regulations that account for the feedback that's been provided. So that's an important part of this process, and
And that's in the schedule for the proposed schedule.
that's what I
Will be
foresee.
other
is
meetings as
going.
well, yeah. But all of the meetings that the working group are public, so anyone can attend any of those.
Right. And I think my other feedback, it's not really just about the housing, it's about the way the state's doing it, because
And nobody's happy with it.
there's other avenues that they're doing it at the same time, they're doing it on the public health side as well. So just to raise awareness that,
There's a lot of forcefulness from the state, well, the government level as far as dealing
And,
with some
I
of
mean,
these things. All we can do is, if we, as a town, go against it like Marshfield just did, and then we
Yeah.
take that
Well,
stand, then we find out what they do.
Cause they.
Rockland,
Yeah.
Rockland, Holden, Shrewsbury's gonna.
There's a
vote
number.
against it. I mean, they're all starting to do it now because.
I think they're gonna find the majority of them. Because other towns and cities are being left alone because they have plenty. Housing, right, as far as-
Plainville brought up that if you drop that many apartments, then it increases the town population, our town population. If you have an average of 4 people in the apartments to, it's an 18% increase. And how does the town handle that?
The T-shirt, but I don't know if they care.
Is that-
I don't know if the state cares, that's the thing.
Right. No, they don't.
No, they don't. So-
Right, they don't care.
Yeah. But this is what we're dealing with, and I feel within the parameters of what we've set up, we would be in pretty good shape not to see much of any impact from it, other than meeting the goal. There was one of the locations, there was some potential interest in a development. We've had, because the Duxbury Housing Group, through our acquisition of land, often their funds are used to acquire some of the land we get. So they've gone out in the past to try to get bids from contractors to put up an apartment for affordable housing in town. We have yet to be successful with anyone interested in bidding on it. So if it was a gold mine to build an apartment complex in Duxbury, somebody would have done it. Especially where they have the backing from the town and the land available from the town, at a very inexpensive cost to do it. And we have not been successful as a town getting any of that entertained. We end up giving them back the money and then putting that land into our land reserve conservation town. That's generally what happens. So I don't know that there'll be a tremendous interest from the outside developers either.
Right. Yeah, but I think majority of us is more just because we're seeing in other avenues that what happens when they slide something through again, what else without anybody.
40B is exactly that. And when 40B went through, it overrides everybody's bylaws. And that's been something, as a town in Duxbury, it's been one of our zoning issues is to consider maybe we should have some covenant within our bylaws to be able to build condos. That's what a lot of people in town, when they've downsized out of their house, they would like to live in a condo and not have to take care of their yard and all those other things. And we don't provide a lot of options for that. And the only option we really provide is through 40B, no other option. We'd have better control over it if we put something like that in our zoning, but as a town, we've been reluctant to do so to this point. To the point where the 40Bs go through this fighting back and forth sometimes, but generally everybody wants them and they all sell out. So, and they tend to be majority of people from here in town already that move into them.
It's just one, does it have to be rental? I don't understand why the state doesn't want people to own.
Well, that's a whole other topic, but
Yeah.
Are you talking
I
about
believe it.
750 units?
I believe they have to be.
Talking to
They have
Are
to
you sure? Because who was our prior town planner? Was it Chris Ryan was here briefly? So he said 750 units. I don't know that they all have to be rentals. So you might want to look at that.
It's my understanding that they would be rentals.
We need to know what it is they're looking
Yeah,
at.
I agree.
Yeah, so it's a lot.
Yeah, as I said before, and I know you came in a little
I
to the
did,
conversation.
sorry, I
The main
apologize.
property that we have in this, the largest parcel that we see this as part of the zone, and this is the location that has stayed in no matter how many other locations we looked at, this one's always there, is Island Creek. Because it's already developed. One, it's already developed, and two, it's already very dense, there's 40B, it's apartments. And
I own these properties.
Yeah.
I own Parkland Apartments.
Okay,
So on Route 53,
Yep.
we also have a little more land over there.
Mhm.
In this environment, in this town, I can't even imagine attempting to develop that, to put more
Mhm.
units in there, just because it's such a difficult process, I think. It's such a difficult process as a developer to go through it. It's costly just to do the planning part of it, the design
Mhm.
phase and all of that.
and none of that,
You
even
want to
though,
be a good partner, and I know you guys want to do your best to take care of the community, but man, you've got some great people that own different properties in town that would love to partner with the town to do some quality developments, and so where it would be you know, condensed, so we don't take up all of it, and it would be really mindful.
And affordable housing is one of the options to
Yeah,
do that. She had a group, I mean, they had funds and everything else, and we tried to do things there, as I said before, and I think you might walked in after. I said it, but we've put out plans that we've had available through there to contractors and their own bids.
I wonder why that is.
I guess they feel they're not gonna have.
Yeah, a friendly environment.
Well,
I'm not picking on you, I'm just saying, I mean, I'll say it straight
that
out.
would be a-
I feel like it's very.
if you're doing it through, we're doing it through, you know, that avenue, we've
Yeah.
set that land aside for affordable housing, it's not gonna be a contentious thing,
Right,
to do it, but I guess they don't see the upside in development. And the only reason I could think of the contractor not to do it when land's being made available for such a thing, to put in apartments, all apartments are considered affordable housing. Regardless of what you charge for, because they're
Yeah.
apartments,
Yeah,
because they're apartments.
Wait, the MBTA?
Yeah, any
Yes.
apartment is considered affordable housing in town.
Oh, but the MBTA can be, market, what's the price? Market rent, it doesn't have to. it's not-
Yeah, the rents don't have to be subsidized on any of this.
Right, but it's
No,
not,
that's
it's not, it's not, MBTA is not, communities are not meant to be affordable housing, it's just meant to be.
units,
Units.
Yeah,
that,
but
that was my understanding.
all apartment units count as affordable housing for the town. I.e. doing this, we would stop 40B because we would reach our 10%. But, so there's lots of different ways to look at what's going on with it. I don't know what the position of the town is gonna be, if we join the towns that are fighting it, or if at town meeting, we say we're okay with these locations, keep sending us our funding and we'll move along, and likely, in my opinion, likely nothing to little will ever happen with these locations regarding this, so. So even the additional locations that we're looking at that aren't developed, I would potentially think as a developer, you got more upside putting in a 40B on those properties than with the apartment. Or the apartments, but that'll be up to decide on that.
And I'm sorry, I apologize, for coming in late. So where is Duxbury in the process?
We are to the point of putting together a working group, which will have working on the bylaw itself. We're pretty far along on identifying the sites. The sites, we've got 3 primary sites with a couple of optional sites.
Are you allowed to say what those sites are yet?
We would have those have already been public, yeah. Yeah, we have them on, they're on the town website, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
believe the map is on the website.
It's the map.
Tell me and let me know approximately where they are. I appreciate
Sure,
it.
you're welcome to look at one of the maps. I didn't bring the map with me.
I have one.
If it's fair, I don't want
I don't have a space to look at this one now, and if you wanna send us an email, we'll email it back to you.
You take a picture of it if you want.
Yeah, and like names and addresses for people to ask questions. I think
It's not a public hearing.
It's not.
That's not-
Okay. Just checking.
One of the areas, I mean,
Yes.
one of the areas is surrounding the Island Creek Apartments, which includes the Curry Bonds.
Yeah.
As part of the zone, so those are potential. The other area is the corner of Congress Street and 53, essentially up where this Christmas Street Farm, north and western part of town. And then the third one is adjacent to Route 3 off of Temple Street, or south of Temple Street, west of Route 3. It's a large tract. It's
Yeah.
entirely wooded at this point, there's lots of wetlands.
Yeah.
so does the fire get involved, as far as I know, just I've met and sat down with the fire guys and just about increases in the EMS calls, the EMT calls and that Island Creek, so also, because the state just cut their budget. They reduced, every fire department in the state got their grants cut. So it's not like, because we're guaranteed that they're gonna not,
I think it's at this,
so it's just like, this,
Yeah.
are they involved also, just because they're getting cut, are they short-staffed, they're already getting
every
taxed?
project we have, they go through their budget and where their calls are and everything. Every project we have, there's a project review team, even when somebody's coming in to do a 2-lot subdivision. And fire department, police department, everybody's involved in and has their input in that, so, everything from that
I'm
standpoint
thinking
is different.
classroom sizes, like.
Oh, yeah. We just built a brand new school, it might not be big
Right,
enough.
and it was almost too small, they
Yeah,
built it, like, there wasn't enough classrooms.
We're using the open space
Mhm.
and putting up partitions to make them classrooms.
Right.
Yeah. What?
So these are all the concerns.
Yeah,
It's hard, when planning for anything is being done, it's hard, it's always a moving target. When we planned for the school, it said, oh, well, the number of kids is reducing because everybody's getting older. Well, what happens when people get older, and then the young people move in, and they all have kids again, so. It's always always a bit of a moving target, but we try to do what we can with this MBTA thing is kind of obviously pushed down our throats to react to in some way. I think we've got a pretty responsible areas that we're talking about, that would be potential. I don't know that they potentially show much upside to actually being developed that way. They would likely be developed. It doesn't mean they can't be developed as single family homes. Just because they're zoned that way doesn't mean that's what they have to be. They don't have to be, they can, whoever, the people who own that land can do what they want. It's just that this would be an allowable option.
It's just scary in this environment, you know, and I hear what you're saying, it doesn't have to be. No, I know, and but you know, like, I'm sure they didn't want to lose that recreational center up in Boston either.
Yep, well, the threats that come on the back end of it are the problem. So
Yeah.
and this is where if you go on and you go, town to vote on it, et cetera, is, a select board level decision.
Yeah,
We're at the planning board in doing planning and trying to figure out how we can give an option and do the zoning for. The zoning itself is, I believe, more or less written by the state at this point, that you're gonna overlay in these districts.
yeah.
And we have consultants that are working
Yeah,
with us
so,
on it.
so that piece of the puzzle will just be what it'll be, and we'll just tell them where these districts are, and then vote on it from there. And it becomes a thing, if the public is saying to the select board, we don't want to do this, i.e. we vote it down at the town meeting, they will tell the state we're not doing it. And the chips will fall where they fall at that point. But I do feel that we have a viable option here in the town of Duxbury with what we're looking at to put ourselves in a position where we meet the requirements, but are unlikely to see much happen at the same time. So, can't guarantee it, but I think that's kind of what we're looking at. Again, the primary site is already 90% developed, and I don't know how easy it is to fill in cranberry bogs and build on. It's wetlands, it's everything else gets involved.
But
You know,
the state says it's
Concom.
okay.
The state says, okay,
They do it,
Yeah.
they do it for 40B.
yeah, and those are the things, but that's a place that's already there. If they decided to expand that development some, that would be what it would be, but we already have the situation over there as it is. It's not the worst thing to have some other housing options for people. There are people who prefer not even to go to a condo. From the condo, they would like to still stay in town and go somewhere else, and there aren't any options. So as we keep looking for ways to help people as we're all aging, be able to stay in town, that is something that's a consideration. So,
I mean, I just remember not that long ago, the fight over McLean's Way,
oh yeah,
so it's just very interesting, so I think it's,
that was one we brought back before the board to do what they originally wanted to do, because otherwise it was going to be enforced.
right,
And they didn't really want to do that,
Mm.
which was nice of them. To pick us up on the offer to come back and we'll
Exactly.
reconsider. So,
no. I don't envy your position.
again, we've just more or less put it together, give the option to the town that meets the requirements of the state. And then we as a town will decide, and the select board will take the town's decision to the
What will
state.
be the makeup of the committee that goes on to study this?
That they're going to be working on this evening. Is that a case of that, letters people had written in that they were interested in being on this, or are we just announcing this at the select board level tonight?
I understand that, the way communities oftentimes appoint committees, they seek people with different points of view, people with different responsibilities on existing boards and committees, so I anticipate there'll be a member from the zoning board of appeals, a member from the planning board, there might be
Select board
someone
member probably.
select board members, people, citizens at large that have an interest. So there is a game plan of, kind of qualifications that I think that the selectmen are looking for, and they're interested in discussing this with the planning board tonight after this meeting, in about an hour, we'll be going down the street and joining them and having this discussion. I'm not sure where it's all gonna go, but they might, throw that out to the public and say, if you're interested, send in a letter of interest.
So you don't know yet?
They might have already collected those. We're not sure because they're working this working group, not us. They may have already collected those and they may not have. They may be saying, hey, we're looking for people from the public that are interested. And there will be, I mean, it'll probably, like I said, there'll be somebody from the various different boards so that we have that input that we would have. And then generally, we want working groups to be the general public, not just a bunch of us who get stuck on, that are in boards and get stuck in a mindset that, you know, we want the outside public opinion in the working group. That way it can work all different angles on it. And that's the point of these working groups, is to get other public involvement versus us just all working in a bubble.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if you're interested in that, I'm sure, again, attendance at it, even if you're not part of the working group, attendance at it, you can communicate and give information and everything too. In my experience with some of the working groups, I was an outsider at one. I wasn't actually part of it. I wasn't one of the at-large people or anything else. And I ended up working with the group as if I was a member.
Right.
So, I don't know how much you want to put in and put to it. I couldn't vote on anything that the group was doing, but they gave me plenty of opportunity to have input. Plenty of input, and everybody listens. Everybody listens. Okay. With that, good on MBTA. There'll be more tonight at the select board meeting. They might just say, hey, we're just trying to put together the group. We've got these people in here now. We want people to send in letters if they want to join the group. And that could be the end of the discussion on that, if they want to get to work.
So that's 7.
Yeah, are we going over there at 7? Is that fine? Okay, okay. All right, so there'll be more on that then. I think we got a couple more things we need to
Yeah.
push through tonight before 7. Let's see here. Informal discussion, Paul, due to 2-lot subdivision on Hardin Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, I'm Paul Brown with Seacoast Engineering in town. I'm here representing Hardin Hill Road LLC and Bayview at Hardin Hill LLC and the Pino family on a couple of sites on Hardin Hill Road across from St. Margaret's. Currently, I just want to introduce Donna Pino. Her husband Bob is zoomed in from out of town on business. They currently live at 67 Hardin Hill Road. Their son Brian and daughter-in-law Kelsey, they live at 33 Hardin Hill, which is the back house of the two. Last week when I dropped off the 3 plans, I gave you a little summary sheet, kind of just chronologically explaining where we are and where we would like to go. So hopefully you have the 3 drawings in the same order as what Emily hopefully will put up on the board tonight. In the cover letter, I'm just going to paraphrase to a certain point. We maybe run a little bit short on time, so I'll try to speed things up as much as I can.
Thank you.
Okay. That's it. Okay. All right. There should be 3 plans in the package. One is the existing condition plan, which shows the 2 lots with 3 dwellings on them. Okay, and the big thing to take out initially is currently 31 and 33 Hardin Hill Road are on 1 lot. 47 Hardin Hill Road is on a single separate abutting lot. The Pinos live over here at 67, which is the waterfront property to the east. Okay. So in essence, Hardin Hill Road LLC and Bayview at Hardin Hill, owned by the Pino family. They own the 2 properties, 3 dwellings. And what our project is, at least informally through the board tonight, is to preview how we would like to redevelop this land. We're looking at taking the 3.4 acres total between the 2 lots and creating 3 new dwellings. There's no increase in density, 3 homes today, 3 homes tomorrow.
Eliminating all these houses.
Correct.
Okay.
Basically tear down, rebuilding. If you look at some of the age and condition of, I'll just say all 3 of them to one form or another, tomorrow is a better day.
Okay.
All right? Okay, but we have 3.4 acres, and from the survey work that we have done, we have delineated everything with the existing condition plan. We have located the wetlands itself. And we have at least shown, at least with the existing condition plan, that hopefully the next two sheets will show you. The second sheet will show you an approval not required lot, an A&R lot that will carve out one new home, and then the two lot subdivision, which is probably the equally important subdivision here, if you will, is the two lot subdivision, basically where 47 is right now. Okay, so this is the second drawing in your package, which basically shows the A&R lot to the west, basically where 31 and 33 are located. 31 obviously is on the street side, 33 is the dwelling to the back. 47 is over here on basically an 87,000 square foot lot, so that's the majority of 3.4 acres. Okay, so looking at from a survey work that we have done, a normal A&R lot can be created here with the 150-foot circle, 200 feet of frontage to meet the normal requirements, 40,000 square feet of continuous upland. There's a little bit of wetland, about 1,600 to 2,000 square feet on the south side down below. But at least at this point in time, it meets those requirements. Okay. Third sheet, Emily, please. Okay, what we have here is the two lot subdivision that is proposed, conceptual, but at least the meets and bounds work. The 150-foot circle, the 200 feet of frontage for each of the two lots, and the wetlands line to the south. And again, basically meets 40,000 square feet for each of the two new lots and enough square footage to create the proposed right of way that gives us the 400 square feet for the two new lots. Nobody was on this board back in 1986. There's a similar subdivision. I don't even think from what I talked to Paul about 2 weeks ago when I introduced the project to him. There's a similar subdivision on Alden Street right near the tennis courts called Alpheus Way. Okay, you should have a copy of that in your file. That was a two lot subdivision, very similar to what we're proposing here. That was completed back in 86, okay? If you look at where the driveway is, where the tennis courts, the pickleball courts are, and the driveway going into the rear side of the library, it's right in that section there on the opposite side of the street. So what we're trying to do here is basically create these two new lots with 214 feet of frontage for one and about 262 linear feet for the other. Again, meet all the meets and bounds for the survey work and for the subdivision control laws as well. Okay. When you look at what we have with the three dwellings, we currently have three driveways. Okay. One house will be, Emily, could you go back to the middle sheet, please? With the A&R lot, we basically have two driveways on this lot right now. We have an existing driveway coming to the rear at 33 and a half moon driveway in the front 31. Basically, with what we're trying to do with the three new lots, one home will be basically in the middle of the A&R lot. Third sheet again, please. And second house will be in the middle portion here, right beyond the proposed paper street in here. We have an existing driveway curb cut into service that house. And the third lot, the one furthest to the east, is basically where 47 Arden Hill Road is now. And there's a fairly open flat spot when you follow the contours. I'll get to that in a minute, where that proposed house could easily be located. So when you look at the subdivision control laws, we're dealing with three lots on three lots with three homes. Each of the three lots has its own, or could very easily have its own single 10-foot by 10-foot, 12-foot wide driveway servicing each of those lots. In essence, we can meet the normal requirements of the subdivision control laws without a common drive. Okay, I think the rules and regulations 7.3 basically show a local street with three lots or less. And you look at those requirements, we can basically meet those same requirements as a local street, but we don't need a 50-foot right of way. We don't need a 14-foot or a 16-foot common drive to service those three lots. If anything, most of what we need exists. Okay, Emily, could you go back to the first sheet, please? Existing conditions, yep, thank you. Okay. As we said, the A and R lot would be primarily where 31 is right now, in that same general area. The clearing that has already been done for this house, and you look at the contours that are there, very little additional clearing would be needed to service the house. But the driveway coming in from Hardin Hill, basically, we have two options. We have the driveway coming in that services 33, or the Half Moon driveway. The Half Moon driveway and, whoops, I'm sorry. Or the Half Moon driveway in front that will service the house. Obviously, we haven't designed any foundation, any footprint for it yet, but could easily be located in that area. The driveway that currently services 47 is in an ideal location to support the second lot that is in the back portion here, where to the east of 33, which would be the middle out of the three. And where we have proposed the third lot, let's just say it closer to 47, you can see where the contours are. A lot of this land is already cleared. You can see from the survey work topography that we have done, the edge of the clearing goes in about 40, 50 feet from the street, but the whole center area in front of 47, if you've driven by there, is quite open. Okay, so there's not a lot of clearing that has to be done to support these three dwellings. So in essence, when we look at the subdivision control laws for the two-lot subdivision, we think that there are many benefits that could be looked at to support the approval of the two-lot subdivision. In other words, there's no need for common drive. It's really there on paper. We can meet all the normal requirements for 3 single-family lots, 3 single-family homes, Title V systems, order of conditions from the Conservation Commission, just by going through the normal individual permitting for the individual lots. We don't have to clear cut anything, in essence, okay? We don't have to cut and fill to create a drainage system or a roadway like McLean's Way or Hawthorne Place up off of St. George Street, okay? Again, 3 homes, there's no increase in development, okay? We don't need an 8-inch water main. Each home would have its own individual service from the water department in town. Again, no clear cutting of trees within the 50-foot right of way. So with that in mind, we're looking at, again, the primary purpose of being here tonight is what do we design for when we continue with the plans? When I talked to Mr. Halkiotis about it 2 weeks ago, you know, Paul and I came to the same conclusion as, I'll just say, older planners and engineers. Do what we have to do to meet the intent of the requirements for the regulations, but do what, you know, do what's appropriate for the land. Okay, so when you look at what the land is like today, what we want it to look like tomorrow, the contours, the grade elevations that are there today should easily be the same as tomorrow, plus or minus, you know, a foot or two based on new foundations, probably a different type of architecture for the homes. But basically meet the town requirements with minimal changes to what's already there. Okay, so I think in my cover letter to you, I suggested, maybe proposed, you know, 5 or 6 areas where we think a waiver could be discussed, could be entertained, so we don't end up just doing a lot of extra work that may not be needed or appropriate here. And when I identified those in my letter, I identified the water distribution system, the 8-inch water main. Again, I explained a minute ago, we don't need that. Each home would have its own individual service. The stormwater report, we're not really creating any more impervious surfaces. We're not really creating, collecting, treating any stormwater from a normal subdivision road or a 14, 16-foot common driveway. Each individual driveway would basically support its own construction and its own stormwater contours, okay? The roadway profile, without a common driveway, there is no profile because there is no new road being built. Again, each home would have its own private individual driveway coming in off of Hardin Hill Road. And the roadway width with the local street, as I said before, we could easily be a 10 or 12-foot wide, you know, asphalt or stone driveway. We don't need a 14 or 16-foot common drive because it's not needed here. Okay, and with that, usually when we do the plan and profile, the stormwater report, we include a landscaping plan and environmental impact report. Again, because of the smallness of this project, the fact that we're not building a common drive again, those 2 items may not be needed as well. Okay, so I think coming to full closure here, I think in summary, what we're trying to do to not increase the density, 3 homes today, 3 tomorrow, is a wise application of I'll just say common sense and logical redevelopment of the property. Okay, if anything, you're gonna find 31 and 33 will be further apart, a little bit more privacy for the three homes, and basically make better use of the 3.4 acres of land to, create three new homes, again, across the street from St. Margaret. So it's a quiet area, it's a nice area, it's survived there for many years, and the Pino family wants to continue with that tradition. So, thank you.
Thank you, Paul. I have one question for you.
Sure.
Might lead to another one, but how much frontage do they have between the two lots?
Right now,
Yeah, the whole shoot match.
we are 92 feet short. We got about 512 linear feet for the three lots. We looked at this a year and a half ago.
So there's no way to just straight A and R.
I would love to, but we can't. I'm
So I was
sorry.
trying to add up what was here and I'm like.
Yeah, it looks close. Put this way, where Donna and Bob live, they have their driveway going in within that 92 feet. It's not practicable. There's a nice stockade fence there. Maybe on paper, you think we could carve it out, but from a practical viewpoint, it's not gonna work.
Okay, I mean, this solves it as well.
Yep.
So, it's okay.
So-
Good, I was trying to, a second, can we make this easier?
Yeah.
So, I figured you already looked at it.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, it looks like you were trying to be creative here, which I appreciate. I have a question though about the sort of subdivision rules. So you keep referring to a common drive, but if the subdivision's on one side of a road that already exists, then that road already service the common drive?
I'm sorry, could you?
Yeah, so you keep referring, you mentioned a common drive
Yep.
before. Do you mean common driveway or common road? Into the subdivision, do you understand my question?
Yes to both.
Okay.
In other words, a normal three-lot subdivision,
Mhm.
usually, if you're creating extra frontage in the back, okay, we would create, a 304-foot driveway coming in to allow the frontage to the rear lots, the bridge office guys. Okay, so if we need 600 linear feet for three new 200 linear foot lots, we would carve out that through the common driveway coming in. Because we have 512 or 510 plus or minus, we don't need that much more. So the shape of the third drawing, please.
The cul-de-sac.
Yeah, so it's a small cul-de-sac, again, very similar to what you'll see on paper for Alden Street, but we're creating the extra frontage in here, but the frontage with the two homes, one here and one here, can easily be obtained through other portions of the frontage of their lots.
So the driveways will be coming in on Hardin Hill for each of the lots.
Correct.
Yes.
We're just gonna have a paper street that's gonna look like that on a page, and all it's gonna look like is straight driveway.
Correct.
But that's just to get the, okay, so,
That's it to get the frontage.
Yeah.
Okay,
and then since we normally do, are there any other situations where we've had subdivisions where we don't require a landscaping plan? Is there any reason we wouldn't require that here?
I'm sorry, what plan?
This is, sorry, a landscape plan. I'm asking our board, like, why would we provide a waiver on that?
Usually the landscaping is around the 50, within the 50-foot right of way, where a sidewalk would be, or on the shoulders
It
of the
won't be
road. There isn't.
landscaping for the properties themselves, it'd be for where the paper street is, or the common driveway, and in this case, they're just gonna have three driveways, they're gonna come in off the street, it's gonna look like any other normal lots in town.
Correct. If you didn't see the paper street, you wouldn't know that there was a
You wouldn't
two-lot
even know that by
subdivision.
its standpoint.
Right, okay.
You'd think they all had 200 feet of frontage and moved on.
Okay.
So, yeah, I personally don't see any problem with the waivers you're asking for here, because you're not developing a road, we're not gonna have stormwater, we're gonna have to deal with or anything else, it's really just, it's a pure paper street, not even a common driveway, so
Correct, exactly.
that shouldn't be a problem.
Again, and Paul, I have another question about the road, the roadway, Hardin Hill Road. So if we're building a subdivision, or we're talking about a subdivision on one side of a road, why would there be a water distribution service required there?
Sorry.
So,
Service.
and so one of the waivers that you're asked for is the water distribution system.
Oh, okay,
No 8-inch main is,
correct.
if there's already a road with an existing main going down, and presumably for the Pino's other property or house at the end of the street,
For the whole street.
for the whole street, why would,
The paper street for three new homes
Oh, it's
would
a
require
paper street.
another 8-inch
Okay.
main
I
after
know.
off the existing
that's,
8-inch main.
that's what
So there'd be a second one for Hardin Hill, one for.
There was a lot set further back, we'd have to bring in,
a hydrant in a main, totally, and in this case, everything's coming straight off.
It's the paper, I live in a neighborhood with a paper lot, but I'm on the other side, I wasn't there for the development
Oh,
side, so, okay, now I understand. What the purpose, why you would need to, why the, project would need to have the waiver because of the road.
It's just in the rules that we have to, anything we're not gonna do in there, they have to ask for a waiver.
Okay, now I understand, thank you.
Waiver's not the worst thing in the world, but they're not all the rules are always necessary.
Right, I think Paul, to your point, you were talking about trying to, what's the best use of this, the land, and so I appreciate that, thank you.
And we're not gonna listen to the state. Okay. The non-issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
With
very
all due
much.
respect.
Any other questions on that? No? Okay, it's just an informal discussion, so we're not voting on anything.
Enos, do you have anything done? Yeah. Brian? Kelsey, no? Bob, do you have anything?
If not,
Emily didn't take himself off the
mute.
I don't know if I can. Uh,
Bob, anything?
what's on it again?
well, if you had something, you bring it up in the next year. Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Paul, obviously, I'm really, over the next couple of weeks to
Sure.
get to the next step of the plans and get final copies and stamp everything with the normal paperwork and
Yep.
I just say finalize the waivers tonight and just incorporate that into the cover letter.
Sure.
Okay.
The,
All right, thank you.
script of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Next item before we head over to select board meeting, we have an informal discussion, with potential future zoning amendments on the Granite Road beach area. Hey.
Hi, I'm Rick Kruger. I grew up out there on 48 Ocean Road North in Duxbury. I summered out there. My grandparents bought out there in 1938. Since then, I got 3 daughters. All 3 daughters now live in Duxbury, and I have summer homes out there. And the beach area for a long time, Duxbury's been trying to fit the building requirements of the lots here out there on the postage stamps. And it doesn't work. So I wanted to approach the planning board to see what their feelings were if we were to, there's a lot of interest in doing like an overlay district so that we can work with the building inspector to do things. I'm just gonna give you a few of the examples of our problems, okay? Auxiliary buildings. One of my neighbors, built a new home. He put it up. And the Conservation Commission wrote in his deed that he couldn't store anything underneath the pilings underneath the building. So he bought a small 10x10 shed, put all the kids' bicycles and everything in it. And the building, somebody called, said he put a shed in, didn't, go through Board of Appeals and everything. So he came out and said that he couldn't have the shed because it's gotta be 20 feet off the property line, 20 feet from the house. And the property line is less than 20 feet from the house, so it have to be in the living room. So the building inspector says, I'm gonna have to make him take the shed away, which is gonna leave all the bicycles and lawnmowers and everything out in the driveway, which doesn't make any sense at all. Height limitations. I was the first one, okay, to ever have to build a house on pilings out there. I built 48 Ocean Road North. I was the only house that survived the no-name storm. I spent 3 years in court fighting with the Board of Appeals because they said it wasn't in the atmosphere of a Duxbury cottage to be on pilings. They wanted me on the ground. And finally, the court said, with the federal building code, Board of Appeals had nothing to do with building codes. So they told me to finish it. And if I finished it, he says, and they make you take it down, will you tear it down? I said, I will. He said, they're not gonna make you tear it down because you're gonna win. So they gave me the building permit that day. I finished, I dropped the house back down, made a 2-story house. It's almost got a flat roof on it because at that time, we were measuring to the height of the peak of the house, okay, not to the way they measure it today. About 2 weeks after the 3-year fight with the town, the no-name storm hit. And my house was the only house that survived the storm. Then the building inspector came down and he looked at it and he told the electric company and the gas company, shut off all the gas, shut off all the electric, the whole area is dead. I was there because I was there during the storm. So I said, wait a minute, my house is fine. The heat's on, everything. He goes, can't be. The electric meter had to go underwater. I said, it's 6 feet in the air, show me. So I showed it to him and he goes, show me the inside of the house. He goes inside the house, no. The house is still working. It's perfect. So he goes outside and he goes, that's how we're gonna build them all now. I said, I just spent 3 years in court trying to convince you to do it that way. And I originally got approved for a foundation. Conservation told me, I think you're gonna get a cease and desist from the state because you're gonna be on piling. So I went down to DEP, I saw them, and that's how I found out. I went to Walter Reed, we looked it up in the FEMA books and everything, and we designed it to the federal standard. So now what's happened is with your height requirements, now the other thing that you gotta understand, when you build a house on pilings, if you build it to say the 2-foot flood zone, I also bought 449 Washington Street between the post office and Talbot's. And I did that building over. I had to raise that up because the ocean had gone through it a few times. If you just bring it to where the state tells you the flood zone is, your flood insurance is about $8,000 a year. Gotta be about it or more. And so if you don't pay for the cash for the building, you can't afford, that's more than the mortgage to buy the flood insurance. So the way to get around it is to go, every time you go a foot above the flood zone, you get a credit. So my house on 48 Ocean Road North is $900 a year. It's never had a claim. It's high and dry. I've never had a problem. My insurance is reasonable for flood insurance. So, but the only trouble is, once I went up 6 feet, now I've got the height requirement. Now what they did in Duxbury, they said, architecturally, they said that we want to get the steeper pitches and architecturally, so that's why they went to the half roof. Okay, so when they figured it in our area, you do that half the roof, you've already got 6 or 7 feet of pilings. And so now they're building these houses, they're taking them down and they're building, you know, $1.5 million house or a $2 million house, and it's got a flat roof. It's like this, it's a beautiful structure, and then goes up.
They're trying to get 3 stories on it. And being 6 feet off the ground.
Well, they're trying to get those, the longer peaks that you have over here.
Right.
What we need is to measure from the flood area or from where the pilings start and do the same as you're doing here.
You get a much taller structure at that point though, and you're in a very bad wind situation there too.
Yeah, but when you build it right, it's not going anywhere because the federal code, my building is 6 feet in the ground, 4 by 4 pads, even one on Washington Street. It's got 5/8 rebar and it's solid steel, 3/8 of an inch thick, galvanized from the buried footings all the way to the roof. And it's plated on all the corners on 48 Ocean Road North. There's so much steel in that building, I had to put lightning rods on it. So we need to address that so that, you know, the architects could design a building that looks decent.
Yeah.
So we have the height requirement. Then they said to me, well, when I bought the cottage, it was sitting on the ground. They said, you gotta stay in the footprint. They said, you can't have stairs to get in the house.
Stairs do not count, bulkheads do not count.
Well, they did at the time,
Yeah,
I had
they
to
don't
get a
anymore.
special permit to put the stairs on. So
Pretty much everything on your lots out there is special permits. You're pre-existing non-conforming, which is honestly a golden ticket in town, because you're not subject to what we have for the current zoning. So if you're 2 feet from a lot line with your house, and you want to rebuild it, you get to stay 2 feet from the lot line. But they get, one of the things, and I understand what you're saying, you'd like to have more height and everything else, you might have to give up other things to make that happen. You might have to move the houses 10 feet from the lot lines on both sides, things like that.
Well, when I built
There's
it,
gonna be a lot of
they
different
made me
things, you have a lot of pre-existing
old
things that are
house.
allowed.
I couldn't even get rid of the entire, I couldn't tear it down and get rid of it. I had to leave part of it.
Yeah, and we've done away with all those crazy
Okay,
things that
so-
used to be
But
like that.
these things were, you know, you changed some of these things. But now stairs going over the seawall to the beach. The people on the front, my grandparents' house, they own both sides of the seawall. So now the building inspector comes down and says, yeah, you know, you can't have stairs. What do you mean you can't have stairs? We got stairs since the wall was built in 1954.
Yeah.
54, I was there.
You got a lot of sticky situations over there, because now who owns the seawall? According to us, now it's the town, right? So,
Yeah, but we paid for it. And
we all
paid-
paid.
The collective,
We all paid for it.
What's that?
We all paid for
the
it.
collective, we all paid for it,
What do you think?
not for your
No.
part.
No, no, we paid for it. The ones, we paid for it and actually, we did we paid for the association paid to get the grant because they told us we owed $1 million for our section. And we hired an engineer to, was a special grant writer who went and got the rest of the money. And then at the end, the town manager took $80,000 of it and gave it to the highway department for the stones that they had to put out front, the big boulders. And so we owe $80,000 that we actually got it from FEMA, but we ended up paying
Right, that sounds like definitely an issue outside of the purview of what planning.
I'm just telling you that,
Zoning wise, but I think you got an uphill battle getting over the wall that is now, as I understand it, the town's wall.
it always was a town wall,
Okay,
it always was,
so then
but
probably have to go around.
they didn't wanna pay for it, it was their wall, but they didn't wanna pay for it, they wanted the homeowners to pay for it.
Well, there was a lot of discussion, we had to figure that out. It was very gray as to what
Okay.
went there, and we figured it out and we dealt with it. But as far as doing anything to it, you know, I mean, you have to take that up. That's not something we can zone. We can't zone that. You can't have zoning that says you can just do whatever you want over the wall. You have to take that up
But
with elsewhere in the town.
we've been allowed to do it.
Or
Since
it was
the law
just
went
done.
in 54.
Or it was just done.
Hmm?
Or it was being done. Just because things are done doesn't always mean that they're allowed.
Oh, no,
That's-
no, it was allowed by the town, we didn't need building permits way back then.
But we do now.
As a matter of fact, we were all told to use, these galvanized straps over the wall, so we wouldn't drill into the wall.
Yeah.
They were like hooks on it.
As you say, a lot of things have changed. A lot of things have changed, that's for sure.
Okay, so what happened over the years, okay, because the ground was lower on the other side of the seawall, people backfilled on our side of the seawall. If Walter Reed, who was a very, very smart engineer who lived out there, always told me when I was younger, this wall, you know, isn't gonna fall over toward the houses. It's gonna go over toward the ocean.
In the ocean.
And I said, you know, how's that? And he said, when the waves come over and they saturate the other side of the wall, that they're going to
They undermine.
put weight on the backside of it, but the waves pushing it, gonna jiggle it, it's gonna go forward, and that's exactly what happened. So now the wall's really tall, and you can't even see over it, so you're sitting on your lawn, you can't even see over it. So people have put a freestanding deck out there so they could, see over the wall and see the beach. And the building inspector says you can't have that structure.
Technically, decks don't have a roof, so they don't count as lot coverage. You could probably have a little argument with them on that one, I would say.
Okay, well, we feel,
A shed is a structure with a roof, so that counts as lot coverage. Open decks do not count as lot coverage. Now, there might be some building code as far as building too close to the wall or something like that, but
well, the building inspector,
you probably get a way around
the
that.
building inspector doesn't really have a problem. He just says, it doesn't meet the code, you can't do it. He says, but, and then like the stairs, he's saying, we can't do those. Another example is, for years out there, they'd say to us, when you're doing your house over, you can't have blacktop driveway, okay? There was one person a few years ago that their whole 40 by 40 lot was paved, the whole thing. So they built a beautiful house, and they got a couple kids, so they said, we wanna leave the right of way and the driveway blacktop, we wanna take all the other blacktop off. And instead of the people of the committee saying, good, we'll give somebody else the credit for that square footage of blacktop if they need it, take yours out, plant grass, they said, no, you can't take the blacktop out. Why?
Another item is asphalt is in residential district is not considered lot coverage, so that doesn't eliminate lot coverage. If they don't allow asphalt out in that area, my guess would be environmental potential issue
Right.
or Concom.
So what I'm saying is, we could have got rid of some blacktop,
Yeah.
if they're worried about blacktop, there was a good chance
To get
to
rid of.
get rid of a whole bunch of it. And they refused to get rid of it. There's too many committees. There's no standard. There's just people making decisions, and they're not always the right decision. They're looking at it saying, oh, it was always blacktop, so it shouldn't stay blacktop. That doesn't make any sense at all.
Most of these items, if you get a decline from the building inspector, you appeal to the zoning board of appeals.
Right.
And that would be where you take up the issue of, say, having the disconnected from the house deck out back. And it's not lot coverage because it doesn't have a roof over it and it allows water to go through. So you would appeal his decision there and then take it to the zoning board of appeals for the decision. And that's where you stand.
But every single decision on every single house is different. Why can't we just have a standard and just say,
Because everything you have there is non-conforming. Everything's non-conforming.
I think we
Pre-existing non-conforming, which is again a golden ticket, you do, be careful what you ask for sometimes, because you've got a golden ticket when you have that. Again, if your house is 2 feet from the lot line, you get to keep it there and rebuild it brand new.
now, under
If
the
you're way
FEMA,
over the lot coverage.
the building inspector was telling me today, under the FEMA regulation, that 10 by 10 sheds are allowed on, in the flood zones. They should be anchored. They should be anchored.
But another thing that's happening out there with all the redevelopment, the lot coverage is being maximized with the house. There's no room for the 10 by 10.
Well,
Shed
that can,
on
no,
lot
you can't have one, of course, but we should have some type of, there's room for this 10 by 10 on this one lot. There's no.
But there might be room for it physically. But you're, again, being pre-existing non-conforming, my guess it's a small lot and the house takes up most of the lot, way more than our guideline is 15% lot coverage.
No, I
And
don't-
on the small lots, you get an additional 3% for everything between 20,000 and
I don't think that's,
where you're at. That's written in the bylaw, but
yeah.
so all of those properties out there are way over the lot coverage that a normal lot would have. Again, they're pre-existing non-conforming, you're allowed to do it. That's why you go to the zoning board of appeals to show what you're doing and everything else. But to say, you're at that maximum now I wanna know 100 feet for coverage. If you wanted to make the house, when you were doing the house, another 100 feet larger, they're likely to decline that too. So that's, if the house is built out and there's not another 100 feet left, that's where the lot coverage comes in. I have the same thing, problem with my house, I have a full acre. If I've got 15% lot coverage already, I can't put in a shed. Even though I've got tons of property to put it on, I can't do it either. So it's the same thing. If I build out your lot, you build out your lot. That's where we run into,
Well,
some difficulty.
the coverage should be a little bit different.
It is.
On closest there.
It is already.
Yeah, okay, so.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, we got the same bylaw that you got over here, we don't have a different bylaw.
Yeah. Everything you have out there is pre-existing non-conforming.
Right.
So that, again, a golden ticket, you get to keep everything you have, you get a massive amount of lot coverage percentage.
There are
that nobody else gets, yeah.
These houses weren't,
Oh, yeah, they've always been there.
weren't year round, these were hunting lodges.
Yeah.
They were duck blinds.
Yeah,
That's
and a lot of the one-story ones now, you can go
When I
like
bought-
2.5 story.
When I bought mine, didn't even have, indoor plumbing.
Yeah, oh, yeah, they were cottages.
The other thing the building inspector says, to put a generator in, just an auxiliary generator, you gotta go to the Board of Appeals to put a pad in for a generator. He thinks that it should be allowed, that a person should be able to put a small pad in, you know.
You're probably gonna raise it up, you're gonna put it up with the house.
Yeah.
Most likely, yeah.
Right, that's what they have to do, you can't leave it on the ground.
Things like that, again, I think what we sometimes have is at the building department, it's easier if it's gray for them to say, hey, you gotta go to the zoning board of appeals. I think you would have more success than you would think at the board of appeals. It would be a pretty quick decision to allow people to do things like that. Because again, that's not lot coverage, it doesn't have a roof over it. If it's just a generator on a pad attached to the side of the house, it's not, it's like having a bulk.
But you have to hire an engineer, do a drawing, file, you know, put a little tiny generator in.
Well, you're not gonna put it on the ground, because if you get support, there'll be no point having it on the ground. But if you got any flood water, the generator's gonna be gone, it's on the
Right,
ground, that's the point of everything being
That's
up.
what the building inspector said, it's gotta be raised.
It's gonna be raised up, yeah.
It's gotta be raised, so, but, you know, do we have to go to a special permit just to put a generator in? I mean,
That, again, there's good things about being pre-existing non-conforming, and the tough part is you have to go to the zoning board of appeals with almost everything. That's the hard part of it, but it's not to say the zoning board of appeals is going to be, difficult for you to get through to do things like that. I'm sure they'd like everybody out there to have a generator, because then we have less loss and we have a lot less problems. And we're more than happy to accommodate people, they come in we see them all the time, raising up the buildings, maintaining the amount of square footage they had. They might have had a 1-story before, now they're doing a 2-story house, it's double the size of their house at that point. But to go up 3 stories because you're 6 feet in the air, it becomes a tougher sell at that point, but we do have an outlet for you guys to be able to do a lot of the stuff you do. You just gotta go to the zoning board of appeals on it, just because they're not informed, it's not informed lots. And they're really built up. It's a dense area.
oh, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, but it was all legal at one time, and.
At one time, there were no rules. So-
Right, but just to go get a generator, it would take us to file, to do all the engineering. Building inspector's giving you $200 a day fine because you put a shed in. I mean, you
Again, a
know,
lot of those things I think is, if you have a situation like the generator, once the zoning board of appeals has made a decision on one of those, somebody's gotta be the one that breaks through the wall. So they make a decision on one of those, then that becomes something that becomes a directive back to the building inspector that that's okay when they approve something like that. So,
but
it can make it easier for others.
there are people who have put the generators in and they are raised up. So I'm sure that when they did their construction, but anybody else now still gotta go has to file that. It's not like, you know, it's an allowed thing. No, you gotta start all over again. Everybody, we just, you know, think that area needs to have some things that are just,
More clear.
yeah, more clear before you start.
Yeah, I think, Mr. Kruger, thank you so much for coming. I think one of the things that we're working on is our bylaws, and I've gotten a sense actually from the CBA that they would like things to be a little bit more clear.
In the pre-existing non-conforming part of our bylaw, we want to clarify a lot of that so that a lot of it's a lot easier to deal with. And that's part of what we are doing in the changes after the recodification. The pre-existing non-conforming special permits in that process, we want to streamline that, and we want to fix a lot of the items that will not mean that you don't have to go there now, but to make it much more simple. That is one of the projects we have.
That's what we're looking for. We're looking to work with you,
Yep.
with the town, so that we don't want to break the law. We just
Right.
want to be able to work with it.
And you wanna know, a zoning bylaw is designed to give us all a roadmap for like, what can I do with my property? What's allowed? What do I need to go ask permission from? And we're all in agreement that it needs a little bit of tweaking, maybe a lot of tweaking. So Emily, in Emily's minutes, she's been taking minutes for us. She'll list all the conversation, everything that you mentioned here today. And so that will help us when we're going forward and starting to work on that.
Okay, I got a couple other people in the neighborhood, they couldn't come tonight. One's coaching Little League and the other one's gotta go for some doctor's thing tomorrow, so couldn't make it either, but, and one of them is, been in the construction in that area, so he's very familiar with the things that he's run into, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
So I just been out there for years and I just seen the things. I mean, one of the things that they said is can't have doors on your, now they say you can't have doors or where your pilings are, you know, underneath the house is supposed to be open.
The breakaway
Yeah,
panels.
garage door, you open it up, and the flood comes through. I mean, that's what happened during the no-name storm. I opened the door and the water went through.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, now they said, that they just told the guy down there he couldn't have a door on his garage, it faces north, not even east. Doesn't make sense. The other thing is flood insurance doesn't cover anything underneath the house. You, if it wipes out your, lattice work, any of that, they don't cover anything. I have refrigerators and everything stuck from other houses under my house. They wouldn't give me money to even clean it up, so.
Yeah.
Chairman, I'm sorry to interrupt, the selectmen are looking for us.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Sorry, I appreciate all the information. We definitely have stuff with Emily, and we will be working on some of that stuff. And all of your concerns really fall into the adjustments we need to make to the non-conforming part of the bylaw to make it easier to do. And it might not give you by right what you're looking to do on some of the things, but we can make it a lot easier. It's not that bad.
I think that's what we're looking for. I think the building inspector is just looking for the same thing.
Oh, yeah, he doesn't want to send everybody there.
No, and you know, it's just an easier way. And it was also when I started looking into this, we didn't have a planner, so
Yeah,
that was
exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe we set the facts on too.
Yeah. I'm glad he's here.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you for coming.
And we'll be, you know, there's gonna be a group that we'll work with it.
Absolutely.
And see what the issues are, so it's just, because you know, it's a different world out there.
Oh, yeah.
We know.
Oh, no, yeah, I've been out there, it's definitely.
All right.
Different world.
Yes.
Well, guys, for
Okay, have a motion to adjourn to relocate to the select board meeting.
Okay, 1 second.
Oh, yeah. Aye. All right, hold on.